Hello, welcome to stream number 100 in this series where I am programming an NES game from scratch. Maybe the April Fool's joke was that there was no April Fool's joke, or no video yesterday. It's April 2nd, at least in the Eastern time zone, and I am doing episode 100 a day later, but basically, the long and the short of it is I started working on some things, and then by the time I realized that I hadn't recorded the episode, it was pretty late in the evening. So I was very tired, and yeah, and so never got to that. So here we are now, episode 100. Let's talk about a few things. So on Thursday, when we do our live stream, on the stream, I am going to put the pre-order that gets you the ROM and access to the source code, and that access to the source code is now as read-only access, with the caveat that you can't just direct copy and paste the source code, the assembly source code, into your own. Not that I think you'd be able to anyway, because there's a lot that's pretty specific to this game. But anyway, yeah, so you get access to the source code in GitHub, and you get access to the ROM when the game is released and finished, hopefully sometime this year. And then the other part of that is, as I said, when the game is released, I want to release a physical copy, and I will do a standard release of the game as a physical copy with a limited edition physical cartridge. The half the physical cartridges will be available for people who do this pre-order, and I'll do some sort of, I gotta figure out how to do some sort of randomized sort of lottery system for that. So, random people will be chosen to pre-order the limited cartridge, and then the other half will be related to the Kickstarter, which will essentially be a pre-order for the game, in physical or ROM format or whatever you want, in order to be able to get the physical cartridge built and shipped and in your hands. Because from the beginning, I've wanted to do a physical cartridge that we can ship out here. So that's that. And I have also finally selected a name for the game. There were a couple of candidates based on, a few things. Obviously based on how the name sounds, but also based on some story elements that I'm not going to go into here, because I don't want to, I don't want to provide too many spoilers as I work on the game here. For those of you who are watching the videos, I want you to approach the game with it's going to be tough, I guess, as I go through and add. I may have to do some, I don't know how I'm going to do that, if I'm going to release those. Maybe I'll have spoiler alerts on the videos that are, focused on story-driven elements of the gameplay. I don't know. But obviously, if you care about the story, then you'll want to skip those so that you can kind of see there is going to be some story. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to fit in the game versus having to, pack it into a manual. And anyway, so the name of the game is going to be Cerulean Ascension. So that's the name. We'll start getting some assets built around that name, and yeah. And so I'm hesitating to reveal any more. Let's leave it at that for now. So Cerulean Ascension, that's the name of the game. And on Thursday at the beginning of the live stream, we will put that pre-order online before we start the coding. I will not keep that open while we code. I don't want the distraction of checking every 5 seconds. It's more so just to kind of have us celebrate that together and then move on. I'll also, before the stream, I'll start a couple minutes early just to kind of hang out and chat with people about non-programming related things, but gaming related nonetheless. Things like the release of the Mega SG and other fun gaming topics. So be sure to come check out the live stream on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern to say hello and chat, even if just in the beginning before I get into the heavy programming stuff. So let's get programming. It always feels like so long between the weekends and when I take a week off because of travel of any sort, whether it's for work or not. So getting back into it, when we left off last time, we had fixed up all the problems, or at least all the problems we were aware of, with the fact that we had these multiple lists of entities. We have the object, and we have the projectiles, which now interact with each other properly, but are separate lists that allow us to have way more entities on screen, and so we don't have this problem with the bullet stream that kind of narrows down, creating an issue where we run out of slots for entities. So that's good. I don't think we'll have a problem with needing even more at this point because we have quite a few spots available. And so while we are using a lot of them for projectiles, we're going to be, as we implement the gameplay, there are going to be things that we want to do to limit the projectile counts on the player side and, of course, on the enemy side as well. That should help, deal with the any sort of limitations we run into. Now, adding both lists and expanding the size of those lists has consumed quite a bit of memory, but I think it's worth it under the circumstances because it really makes the game. It's going to make the game feel a lot more hectic in the appropriate parts of the gameplay. So I'm all good with that for now. One thing I wanted to start working on was some of the map functionality or the background functionality, really related to how. Oh, I don't know why I have my headphones on. I was listening to something before. I was coding a bunch of music and listening back to it, and I had not. I forgot that I don't need that anymore. So, just as a side note, I don't know if any of you like video game music, but if you've never listened to Black Mages with Nobuo Uematsu and several other musicians performing the music from Final Fantasy, they have a couple of albums. I don't know if they have more than that, but it's pretty good if you like Final Fantasy. Anyway, sorry. What was I saying? So, one of the things I wanted to do was work on the transition in the backgrounds. Basically, the background will be transitioning between sort of a low altitude and a high altitude mode. So where is... Oh, I closed Messin. I didn't mean to do that. We'd done some stuff with this before, so the low altitude mode will have some slight differences in graphics compared to the high altitude mode. While, there were some possible issues with the backgrounds for the high altitude versus low altitude, what I want to do is a couple of things. One is, we've talked about the idea of using these sort of looping transitions. So the idea would be that you'd have sort of one actual level piece, you have a screen that loops several times, and you have another level piece right? To give the illusion of a longer game. Games like Guardian Legend appear to have very few unique flying areas, at least in the levels that I've played. Tends to, it's from what I can tell, it tends to do sort of, you know, a looped section, and then another looped section, another looped section, and then it sort of slows down, and then you have like the last boss area where everything stops, right? That's not what I wanted to draw. I wanted to draw a really crappy stop sign, right? And you stop. And then you fight your enemy in here and whatnot, right? And that's okay. I mean, that works. I like the idea of having things this way, because what I'd like to be able to do is something like, you know, have a beginning section where the ship takes off from, say, a hangar or some sort of, you know, secret location. So the ship is here and it takes off and it scrolls through some background level, and then we say, okay, and then whatever is the background at that point, we're going to loop through, you know, times 5 or 10 or whatever. We need to be able to adjust the scroll speed. And then, you know, after that, we will then have just the straight fly through. So we have to figure out how we're going to represent that and encode that information, both the content and the scroll speed. So let's look at how we might do that. I am basically just figuring this out here in the recording, so I'm not sure how far we're going to make it. We'll see what we can do. So what I'm thinking, I mean, really what we're talking about is a so this is maybe one map and tiled, right? And we say that it's it just plays through one time, and we have a scroll speed associated with it, right? And then after we reach the end, maybe what we need to do is then specify, instead of it being a map at that point, we're saying, you know, okay, it's a meta tile, because we're just populating the meta tiles here now. And then, you know, again, how many times we're looping it, n times, and then the scroll speed. And maybe we want to do something like, we want to say a start and an end scroll speed, because maybe we want it to be something where it increases. Actually, you know what? No, because what I'm thinking is, if we want to do that, then we could have two. It's better to have it be broken up into maybe two meta tile sections, where, or two or more, where we then adjust the scroll speed. I don't know that we're going to have too many areas where we want to keep the same meta tile but increase the scroll speed, because my thinking is that what we'll do is we'll transition to tiles that make it look like we're going up higher, and then we'll increase the speed as we do that to make it look even more or decrease the speed rather, because as you get higher, it looks like the background should move. It should look like the background is moving slower, to give that illusion of ascent into the sky. All right, so kind of sketching this out here, we may have to revise this format because we may need to do a few more things. So maybe we want to use a JSON format for this and do something, you know, like we have our sprites and have an array. And then have levels, an array of the level objects, which would then in turn have what we talked about here, you know, sort of a something like a type, a repeat, map name if it's applicable, and then scroll speed. And then you can have multiple of these in sequence. The only reason I'm using this is because it's fairly structured and I don't have to build a special editor to make this work. It will just work in a text editor if we build it this way, and we already are parsing JSON data. One thing we can do, I don't know if anybody has ever used this before. I'm sure people who work with web stuff may frequently use this, but I've found this to be particularly useful. It's called JSON lint. It not only validates your JSON, but it also it also does a nice job of formatting it so that it's easier to read. Let's see. Parsing one string got bracket. Why does it think it should be getting a string? Is it because it's not a float? I don't. Let's see. Or oh, is it maybe just because of some other syntax error? Let's see. That's the end of that object. That's the end of that array. That's the end of that object. That's the end of that. And then there we go. Okay. What else? What else do we need to identify in this format here? So beyond just the levels, we also want to in the level itself, right, we can specify our palettes in order, and then the other thing that's kind of nice about doing it this way is we can specify this for each level, which we probably want to be able to do because we're going to swap palettes at each level anyhow, right? We're not always going to be using these same four necessarily. Maybe we don't even need that then. That could work. All right, so Let's do this. And let's. That's that. What's wrong with my array of strings? Oh, the escapes. Does it actually know what to do? Nope. Quick fix. I don't know. So I was excited to figure out that that's Ruling Ascension is what we're going to call the game, because I think that's a pretty solid name, and it really hits home on some of the story elements that I'm sort of most excited about. That again, I can't really go into without, you know, spoilers. At least not at the moment. But it fits in nicely with a lot of things that I was trying to make sure we incorporate into the game. So that'll be cool to make that happen. I gotta send a message just in case he doesn't see this, but I'm hoping Jordan will be able to whip up a new title screen. I know he frequently watches these, so it's entirely possible that I will send him the email and he will say, yep, I already know about that. All right, let's see. That was a cloud sprite, and then what else have we got? Let me move these up here just for the sake of not having to do this one by one. All right, so other than our escaping here, come on, press the right key on the keyboard. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about the name. I mean, not that I'm going to change it, but hopefully you like the name. I think it's pretty cool. And hopefully you'll show up on Thursday for the official launch of the pre-order on itch.io. I will post that link on Twitter live, and it will have some story description in it, and hopefully I've set everything else up correctly to make that work properly, and it'll be a smooth thing that people can actually do. All right, so let's see. So we've taken the old format here. Right, so we've got the level. Well, we didn't incorporate it here. So let's say that map is the type map1.json. Scroll speed is what is the scroll speed? I don't even know. It is that's that. Where is Where is our adjustment of the world position? So we are... Right now we're just subtracting one at a time. So what we'll do is we will make this just be, say, 1. And that's that for now. So let's see, is that a full... That looks like a full redefinition of what we had before. Now what we can do is we can do something like this if we want to, where we can say... I'm just thinking about what I'm doing here. So level palettes, blah, blah, blah. We may have to, do some creative readjustment here later, but let's see. So the sprites are sort of global. We probably want to fix that at some point, but I don't want to touch that right now. But anyway, so what we would do is we'd say, okay, this is a loop type. So for the map, we're going to say, I don't know that we need to do a repeat. And then for the map, let's say the scroll speed is 2 and it's a loop type, so there's a repeat and a scroll speed, right? That would be how we would define that, essentially. I'm not going to keep that actually in the file right now. Did we discuss this last time? You can't comment out? I don't remember. I guess you can't. All right, so that's how that would work, but we're not going to keep it for now. Actually, yeah, okay, this is okay. This is the, what is this? These are the sprite palettes. Let's call it by what it is. These are the sprite palettes. And then, oh, no. Okay. I see what I confused myself. Not a surprise to anybody who's watched this series in the past. So, right. So these are all the palettes that we have on the cartridge. And then we have our level palettes, which define which palettes we want actually loaded in that particular level, right? So these are the palettes that are possible for the whole game, and these are the level background palettes that are loaded for the background? Yeah, for the background, I believe. For the background? Level palette 0, 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's just loading player 1, enemy 0, and FX 0. I guess those are for the sprites. And then the meta tiles, it has its own separate palette. I just want to name this properly because obviously I've already confused things by not doing so. what's it doing? Why can't I find... Is it ignoring that? Load project. There's the level. There's the sprite. There's the palette. That's odd. Obviously something was using this because that was the whole point of it being there. Oh, you know, the other thing that we are going to have to fix here, I forgot about this. We split up drawing the... did we? How did it... What was this? Forgot what we did here. It looks like we have entities actually set to something. Is this the exported file? Maybe that's the exported file. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, that's the exported file from the asset tool, which is not correct. Okay, right, because what we had done was we had modified the draw entities. You know, let me make a copy of this so I don't accidentally overwrite it and totally break the game and then don't have a record of it. So what we had done was we had split the entity and projectile lists in two, and as such the drawing was split into two. And we called this twice. Once for projectiles and once for objects. And the reason we had to do that was because the only way to access these lists, if we wanted to use something like a pointer that pointed to those lists, is to use the Y index, and then that means that we would have to change up how we're accessing sprite mem or do some juggling around with Y, because that's the only way we can index off of a pointer. So we have two lists, one that deals with projectiles, one that deals with entities that are objects. The asset tool needs to be... Excuse me. The asset tool needs to be updated to handle that properly. But more importantly, we probably need to define that somehow. In the sprite itself would be my guess. We would say that the sprite has some additional field in it that identifies the sprite as a projectile or an object. So we can free up some, well, we can do this. So that's a new field. That's why we have this reserved space here, so it doesn't change the overall size of the structure. I'm still confused about the level palette. Am I just loading? It's possible I'm just loading. Load palette loop. This is, okay, that's in load level. Load palette 4, stored in PP palette 0. Load palette. Yeah, load palette. Where is the load new game state? So load level, JSR. So let's take a look because I don't remember. I vaguely recall doing 2 loads of a palette. Yeah, so there's. This is loading palettes 0 through 3. That are defined in the map data, which are the metadata, metatile, rather, the metatile palettes. And then, okay, and then we store a sprite, a set of sprite palette values. Okay, so export map. So is it ignoring? It may be ignoring the that list because it knows based on what's in here. So this is original sprite palette, right sprite palette. It's writing the file, project palette. Those are those. So what is it doing? 0, 1, 2, 3. I don't think that's right. What is this? What file are we writing to here? Palette table. Sorry, it's been a while, so I don't remember exactly how this works anymore. So those are the palettes. Based on what? What is palette size determined by? Palette size is coming in from there. Palette size is 16. This should be based on the actual number of pallets loaded and not the maximum size of the pallets. So did I just kludge this all together? Well, let me be more specific than that, because yes, I did, but did I just kludge this whole sprite situation together? So there's this palette thing, which loads the palette file list and gives it an index. And says that we can only have 16 pallets total for the game. Oh, excuse me. It's getting late, so I gotta start work earlier. But you know, you get into looking at a million things, and then before you know it, it's late, and you haven't done what you want to do. Let's see, replace file extension. So this is, looks like it's just using the first 4 pallets. I guess it's not doing anything with level palette whatsoever. Which means that it would just skip it. All right, so right now, then, these are not quite as sophisticated as I would want them to be. And this is essentially meaningless, this sprite palettes thing. Which is fine for now. I just will have to come back to that and fix that. So let's fix how we're loading the project file and see how long that takes us. And then we can go from there. That may be all I have in me tonight. Based on how I'm currently feeling. Okay, so we've got all the text, and then we're going to load the project, and so now let's do this. Before we go any further, let's just make sure that we have the latest committed changes here. What was it that I should have looked at that more closely. What did we actually change here? Branch clear carry load A FF. Add carry some value. Branch if carry is clear. Oh, okay. So this was if we... Let's add a comment to that, because I totally forgot about that part. So... add code to check if the sprite should only partially render in order to prevent sprite rollover, i.e. the bottom of the sprite appears on the top because of too much sprite. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So that's what that's for. Added code to check for sprite rollover when drawing. All right, let's commit that. Just because this is going to be a pretty major change, and yeah, I don't want to lose that. So load project. Okay. So let's go to this. So now we have our text file, which is going to essentially be our JSON data. And looking back on how that craziness works, we need a Jasmine parser. It's our parser. And then I'm going to put a bookmark there. If you've never used that before, they are pretty handy, the bookmarks in Visual Studio, so you can jump back and forth. All right, so we need our tokens now. Solve it. I mean, if you use a split screen editor where you can have the same file open twice, you don't have to do this, but this is a relatively simple way to make this work. And we have our code. All right, so after that, what we want to do is make sure that we have enough tokens to actually parse this. I'm confused. I thought we... Did we not open the file already? Read all text project file. Oh, so we read it in, but then we don't do anything with it? It's weird. Why would I do that? Sorry, wrong. Find all references to project file content. Yeah, so weird. So we allocate the size, we mem set it, we read the content, and then we do nothing with it. Okay, so let's eliminate that then, because we don't need to do that. We'll leave that in load project. That's fine. So let's let's move this all here, and let's have it do the read open text file, read all text to get the file size, and then actually read it. And okay, so now we're here. And we're going to tell it to do that with buffer. Size T is, I think, what is size? Oh, that's right. So we're gonna parse it. We're gonna parse it and check the token count and see if it exceeds our current tokens. Oh, this is the load map. Where the did I get rid of? Weird. I guess I got rid of that bookmark. Okay. So num tokens, if num tokens is greater than max tokens, I think I just assert, or I return a failure or something like that. Okay. Could not parse the project file because we need more tokens in max tokens, and then printf standard error. Just steal that. Trying to be consistent here. Okay. All right. So if is less than or equal to num tokens, okay, then we're gonna really parse this. All right. Let's see. So all right. So now we get to actually start using this thing. Get property value is string. So let's look at our format here now. So let's start with the sprites. So we want get property index because it is because we want to get the location of the property that points to the array. All right, so now that we have that, we should be able to get the next object, which should be the array object itself. So this is one of those things where it logistically it's a little bit simpler to use object-oriented programming for something like this, because the traversal of the tree structure is it's not quite so flat. I mean, I actually don't know. You know, I take that back. It's not even so much that it's a function of object-oriented programming. It's more so just that this has chosen to break up all the tokens into a flat array structure rather than a, you know, a linked list tree sort of structure, which, you know, might be easier to traverse than what we have here. But that said, it's not terribly difficult. It's just maybe annoying at times. So we want to increase temp index, and then we want to say, okay, if tokens temp index type does not equal Jasmine array, then we have a problem. Let's comment out all this code, because this is no longer relevant. And these should be returning false. Return false. Return false. Well, this will return true, but we're not going to even get there. All right, so good. Oh, actually, almost good. Okay. Put a breakpoint here. Let's see. We'll just step through it. Build problems. Can I convert int? Okay. Whatever. Fine. Anytime. What's going on here? That you're not doing this? Try again. Why did you not hit the breakpoint? That was weird. Okay. What's the matter? Did I not save the file in the right location? Shooter.json. Okay, stop. It's there. Read all text. Load project. Read all text project file. Well, why is that null? Project file name. Shooter.json. 0. Parent path. Assets. Change to parent path. Project file name is shooter.json. Strange. Okay. Well, that should be okay. What's handle 0? What's the problem? Is it? Maybe it isn't okay. Maybe it's a bad. All right, let's go back here for a second. Stop. That's just a, okay, that's just a pointer, so, oh, right, because it's a file pointer, yeah, it shouldn't be null, but that's weird that it didn't open it. You'd think it'd be able to open it okay. Everything looked okay. Project file name. Projects shooter assets shooter.json. Okay, let's take a look. Assets shooter.json. It is there. It's the file we're looking at. Let's do a couple of things. One is if project file equals, come on. Let's at least put an error message to identify whatever nonsense is going on. And then stack around export file name. Why is it even trying to export? Load project, because it is ignoring the fact that load project is failing. If not load project, for def could not load the project file. Oh, why is it still doing this? That's not necessary. That was weird. So it couldn't open the file because it was already opened by the program previously. I'm not sure what that was all about, but anyway. Now it makes sense. So read all the text. If we take a look at the buffer, there's our JSON data. That's good. So now we're going to run it through the parser. Num tokens is 28, so we're good there. We're going to really parse it now, and we're going to look up the index for sprites, and that has failed. Okay, so that has failed for reasons. Temp index should be 0. It is. Let's step into that and see. Let's step into that and see why that is misbehaving. Oh, tokens 0 does not. Really? What am I? Tokens. Tokens? Jasmine parser, Jasmine token pointer, tokens. Okay, Assisto, what is the deal with that? Tokens. Mac tokens. JS code length. It's like it did not parse it properly. Um, I've got to reinitialize. I've got to reinitialize that parser. I forgot about that. I had that same problem last time, I believe. All right, stop. Okay, so yeah, all right, that's good. It actually loaded it properly now. So what is the type? Jasmine string. Oh, because, right. Because the value is not the thing, it is, I believe that will resolve that correctly now. Nope. Okay, let's take a look, because I was making some assumptions about what we've got here, and obviously that is not correct. So tokens 0 is an object. Tokens at temp index -2, which is the first. Oh, did it give us? It gave us the thing? Okay. Get property index. Is it actually getting... Okay. Right, so that should then give us an array. And then we want our code here. So what we want to do is we want to loop for int I is less than I is less than tokens temp index size, and then we do that, and then what we want to do is, where's project file count? We need that back with you, sir. All right, so from there, compare it to, okay, we don't want to compare it to the token. What we want to compare it to is the value. So let's we do need to alias the array size into that, and then increment the temp index, and then what we can do from there is tokens temp index plus I will get us what we're looking for. Sort of start, and that is the start location of that string value. Okay, hold on a second. We need a buffer. We always need a buffer, don't we? I forgot, we've got to update the buffer with the content of, we can't call it buffer because we already have something called buffer. Node value, how about that? So string copy, yes, node value. And we're going to copy from the address of buffer at tokens I plus array size, not array size, temp index rather. So that's the start of that. And then we want to only copy the length of that string. And this is dumb. Let's fix this here for a moment. Basically, I just don't like that we are constantly redoing this. We don't need to. We can just say that now. It just looks cleaner and easier to read because we're saying, okay, we've got this thing that's the token at that location. And we are copying from buffer at the location of start for a count of the end minus the start, so whatever the length of that string is into node value. And that gives us our string that we're comparing against. And then, oh, that's putting that into temp. I guess we don't need to do that anymore. Let's do that for node value. And then make sure that that exists. And if it does, then type is sprite and project file count and good. And do we even have temp anymore? Or did we comment that out? Where was that at? I don't know. I don't see it here. And where we were reading, we got to make sure to free buffer. Although, honestly, it doesn't really matter in this case because this is not something that would be happening over and over and over again. So it's, although it's leaking memory, it doesn't really impact us that badly. It's not something that is a long-running process that would continue to allocate and not free the memory. Yeah, temp must have been something. Oh, okay. So that was just a pointer. All right, cool. So no longer relevant. So let's test this out and see how this looks. No longer need to break on that. Get the property. It is an array. Get the array size. Let's array size. Token buffer node value. Great. All right, so we have node value. We've increased temp index. We have our array size is 7, so we're gonna loop through. We've got 7 sprites. So project files, file full path. Oh, I see. That's, or why Why am I doing this? Oh, so we have the pointer to that. Okay. I guess we can do that. So then I don't really need node value anymore. Apologies for that. That was just, I don't know, forgetting how this all works over here. What's the problem with this? No instance overmatches or car pointer, int. So what do you take? Destination. Next file. Folder name. Oh, wait, stop. Okay. So just wanted to know what the destination buffer size was. Fine. So now temp should have, it does, it has explode.sprite. It's got explode.sprite, good. Get the file name. Okay, is directory. Blah, blah, blah. We're good there. Should probably add this here. If not file exists. What is it? System hooks. Temp, blah, return, false, good. Okay. Actually, that's one thing I like a lot about C#. I don't know, for those of you who use it or have never used it before, they have that syntax with a string like this where you can say whatever you want to say. And then use a curly brace and put in your variable like that. Excuse me again. It's much easier to work with than these printf things, but anyway, just that was an aside. That is a rather handy way of dealing with strings. Okay, so the file does exist. Good. That's explode. What are we looking at here? That's bullet. Player sprite, cloud, enemy bullets, low altitude projectile, medium, and we're done. Okay, is that everything? It is, great. So that is that part. So we have successfully parsed the sprite part of things. Let's parse the palette part now, because that will be relatively easy as well. In fact, we can almost completely copy this. Else. Wait, no. Not an else. This is yet another property if. Right, so we have palettes, right? Yep, palettes. Okay, so let's copy now the logic that's here for that. Again, this should be relatively straightforward. That should be an array as well. And we get rid of this code. And now we have this, and this becomes a return false. Printf there are more palettes specified than allowed palettes. Currently, the limit is this palette size. Okay, that's our error message, and now what we want to do is same thing as up here, essentially, and loop through, and you know, we don't even have to do, I forgot about this part. So we can say get property value as string. I forgot that this all works this way. Buffer tokens, max tokens. Oh, but you know what? It's all right. Never mind. It doesn't work that way because it's an array. We could. Let's add a helper function for that, because that would make sense to have. Get property value as string. Let's do int get property value as string, and we will have an additional parameter called index. Let's do that over here. And we've got this, and that's all that, and we get the property index. Okay, so this does not use the property index, property value as string. Let's call this get array value as string, because this is a little bit different. This works more like what we've got not here, but instead over here. All right, so basically this code, sort of. It's not exactly, but we'll deal with that in a second. So what we're saying is what? So we have our code, we have our tokens, we have our max tokens. We want to change this to be the token index. And so we want to say if token index is not equal to, let's do this, assert equals let's just do it this way. Let's assert that that's got to be true, and that simplifies things quite a bit. Now we're not looping like we were before. What we're doing is we're saying, okay, string and copy s into property value max size. The source is the JSON code at tokens well, let's say token index plus 1, right? Because it's the beginning of the array, plus index start. So that's the start of that string. And then this is the same nonsense as before. Let's just say token start. Let's declare Jasmine t as token equals this thing. Nope, not that thing, this thing. We want the array, the address of that. Stop. Yep. Okay. So now that's that. And then token and minus, oops, and minus token start. So that string copied that in. And that's it. That's what we want to do, right? And so then instead of doing this, we can just loop through, and we don't have to replicate that code everywhere. We just say get array value is string, buffer tokens temp index, property name doesn't need to be there, so we'll fix that in a second. Temp and max file folder name. Let's go to this, and property name is not relevant any longer here. We should probably assert property value so that we don't get a null there. JSON code. Okay. We just want to make sure that we are not going to hit any problems. Okay, don't worry about that right now. We just want this. So we're going to say, okay, it's an array. Do that, and then that's the array size. Get the thing there, and put that into this guy. And then once we're done with that, do that, and then do this. And array value is string, must return a value. Okay. The only problem with this is I got to return a value here, so it's kind of double work to do this, but that's all right. Return 1. Okay. All right, let's see if that works with our palettes now. I don't see why it wouldn't. Temp. All right, so what did I screw up here? Okay. Temp index temp. Okay. Oh. Okay. It's just trying to go too quickly and type the wrong condition there. All right. So Property value. Okay, that looks reasonably good. Oh, damn it. I don't need to do that anymore. What? Okay. And that's palette, the first palette. Palette player, 0 pal. Okay, cool. You know what? We should add this to that loop, but we'll do that in a second. Everything else looks like it's going okay. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, cool. That's exciting. That's working the way that it's supposed to. Alright, so that's our palette, and let's finish up with a level just to make it work as it is today, and then we will call it a night. Because I expect that it's going to be much more difficult to do the level nonsense. It's gonna be a while to get that fixed up here. So, all right, so we want to get our array of levels. Really, you know, in some ways the autocomplete is great, and in other ways it just messes me up and creates problems. Sometimes I end up just fighting with it. All right, so we checked that it's an array. So that's our size. Right, so we're just looping through that. Now, the main thing is that this is going to have within it a property called layout, and then we've got to loop through that array and load the map type, basically. I mean, it's not 100% right because we're not... there's more to it than that, but for what we're doing right now, that'll be sufficient. All right, so get property. Let's if get property index buffer tokens max tokens layout. This should be temp index. Except in this case, we do want to do an increase in temp index because we now need to find the layout property of the object that's in the array. So this should actually be map index, and now that we are actually within the object there, we need to, or the property there, that we need to check to make sure that that is an array. That should be .type. probably give some details here. Syntax, layout, error in levels, description, levels, property is not an array. Same thing here. Layout error in layout property of level. Let's give the actual level index, level index. Present D, layout is not an array. Right? So that gives us some details about what happened if we mess up the JSON file. All right. Okay, so now that we have that, we can actually pull the property out. I'm just going to pull map name because I'm done. I'm ready to wrap it up here. So what I want to do is I want to ++ map index, because we're going to go into the first object of the array regardless. This should loop through all the layout items in the array, but for now is only reading the first. So this should be an object, and so we should be able to say get property value as string. And it should be buffer tokens, max tokens, map name. We gotta figure out where I'm putting that in a second, and then max size map max file folder item name blah, and then this tokens should be map index. We're starting at that object level there. So this is irrelevant now. Wait, what was it doing there? It was copying token, current working, blah, blah, blah. String concatenate. Okay, so I need something here to put that value into, and then it will concatenate it in, and then we're good for the map file name, as far as that goes, at least. What did I do? Free buffer. Oh yeah, semicolon, helpful. Okay, so let's get to this point, and then let's see what I messed up here. Suspect there's some little nuanced thing that I messed up, but let's see. Okay, so it is an array. We have the array size. We're going to increment that, and then we're going to set that to map index. We're going to get the property index of layout, which worked, and it is, oh, it's not an array. It's an object, right, because it gave us the first object in the array. Is this the same problem we had before that I was doing? Because I'm tired. No, this is different. Temp index, layout, map index type does not equal array. Temp index. I guess the question is it finding, let's see, so we have the array. Oh, you know what? think that'll take care of that. Nope. Should I have not? Let's see. No, but it is a... Let's see. So, get out of here, Cortana. Type is an array. We have the array size. We increment temp index, which is now the object. We get the property index, except it didn't find it. Let's step into that for a second here. So it's an object. We're looking for layout. That's what I called it, right? Layout. Okay. Layout. Yeah. Buffer. Yes. Okay. Did I just check the wrong condition? Yep, I just checked the wrong condition, damn it. Right, because you got to check it doesn't equal 0. I should start doing these earlier, so I'm not quite so tired and I don't make these mistakes. All right, map index incremented. And what? Tokens, map index, gives me a string. So it was an array. And now we have a string. Okay. Well, that's weird. Why is it a string? It should be after... So it was the array, and the size was 7. Do this. Is that potentially confusing things? Maybe. I don't. Step into it and double check here what we're seeing. Yeah. So the index is now what? 2. But it's not an object. Why is it a string? Because why? Map index. gives me the array. How is that a string? I'm confused. Token 0, token 1. Oh, you know what? It's because I don't remember having to do this before. It's because the temp index and the map index have to be summed because we're using, this is our starting point. Let's say, let's do this. All right, so that's that, and then that would actually fix the problem moving forward because we're using that offset, and then this should be like that, not the original tokens. It's just a question of the way we're offsetting things in memory. It's just a little bit goofy because of the fact that we're searching into an object of an array. Okay. Map tokens, map index. That's an object. Right. Yeah, you got to be awake for these things, or you make dumb mistakes. Okay, there's map1.json, and then it's gonna give us the full name there. And then we're free and return, and that should be it. About the only other thing we didn't do is this, which we should do. All right, let's see what that looks like now. At the end, project file count. Where was I adding that? Adding to that, rather. Just in the sprites, right? Yeah, okay, so now... Okay, cool. So that looks correct. I don't want to do the full export here because the draw code is wrong, but it's now loading the project as it was before, but using the new JSON format. Obviously, like I said, we have to change the project to understand this layout concept, but for now we've reset to what we have here, which is good, and we can start moving towards this ability to have different sections of map with repeats and stuff like that. So as always, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask on Twitter. I'm at Clairvis. I am on Nintendo Age Azelius. You can post comments on the YouTube recording that I'll post of this and all my other recordings and streams. yeah, so Cerulean Ascension, and we'll launch the itch.io page on Thursday on stream right at the beginning, and hopefully you'll join me in a little mini celebration of that milestone. And for those of you who have been asking to get some access to this code, you will get it. And then Zero Pages episode 4. The plan is at the end of this week, Saturday, more likely. Well, I guess that would be the beginning of next week, Sunday, but over the weekend. Okay, so keep an eye out for that as well, and that'll be the getting started sort of Hello World program, and then we can move on to more complex topics in the shorter format of modifying the background, attributes, all sorts of stuff. So thanks for watching. Have a great night, and see you Thursday on the live stream. All right, take care. Bye-bye.